Hi everyone, thanks for spending some time with us. I understand you're all busy, so we just hopefully trying to provide you with a little bit of some information nuggets on your analytics and your marketing. So I'm going to cover how to measure the ROI of SEO. So I know for some people those are 6 scary letters, both ROI and SEO. So I'll give you a kind of a high level how to check to make sure that you are getting a return on your SEO efforts, and you know, if making sure that your money is going where it needs to go. You know, are you getting the return? So what are we going to talk about here? So what is SEO ROI and why is it important? How and when do I start measuring? This one's always important. I'll give you a quick answer is right now. So number 3 is ROI for lead gen and e-commerce. These are handled a little bit differently. E-commerce is sort of a harder number, where lead gen, you kind of got to work your way to figure out what your numbers are, and then you can break them down from there. Number 4 is getting data that's useful to you from Google Analytics. We're just going to take a look at the high level of the organic search. That can pretty much define most of your SEO efforts, but going back to Tom's presentation, the cleaner it is, the way better it's going to be. So definitely take a look and see where some of the traffic's coming from. And then number 5, my favorite part as a numbers guy, is the ROI formula. So what is SEO ROI? This may seem a little basic here, but we'll just go over it. SEO ROI is a calculation that measures the return on investment of search engine optimization by looking at your search engine rankings, organic website traffic, and goal completions using this formula. Gain from investment, cost of investment, divided by cost of investment. So basically revenue by what you paid divided by what you paid. So why is it important? If you are involved in doing SEO, you'll understand that it's a big spend. It's going to be one of the, other than a major paid ads campaigns in your ad spend, it's going to be one of the bigger costs that you have in your marketing department. So you need to be able to control and understand it, how it's operating, how it's being spent. Unlike paid ads, where the metrics for SEO are a lot more loose, you got to kind of figure them out. With paid ads, you know what you're getting. You have complete control over your spend. You can see the data; it's all in there. SEO, you got to kind of work for it a little bit more. A lot of it is intangible. And when you do understand what sort of ROI you're getting and where the money is sort of being spent, if it's getting spent properly, it gives you the ability to adjust and focus. So how do I calculate my SEO ROI? So the first and most important part is just get conversions tracked. A lot of the times I will see analytics accounts and they're not really tracking anything. Even if it's basic to get started, even if you're not using it, even if you don't really plan on using it, it's really important that you figure out what your conversions are, what's most important to you, and assign a hard number to them in analytics, because one day you will want it. So having the history there is super important, allows you to make for the better decisions, and you can plan for the future. So what is conversion tracking? So I took this from Sprout Social. Conversion tracking is when a brand monitors the actions consumers take towards the completion of a business goal. These actions can include signing up for a newsletter, downloading a content offer, adding an item to a cart. Conversion tracking is a way to determine the effectiveness of an advertising campaign, design change, or other marketing components. The thing with conversion tracking, especially with lead gen, it's really up to you. What do you consider important to you? Quote requests, phone call clicks. So just a good understanding of what is important to you goes a long way, and getting it tagged up in analytics, super important. So what does your website do for you? So this may seem simple as well. I do often have to ask clients the questions, you know, what is your website actually doing for you? If you have a brochure site with just a contact form, you probably want to look a little bit deeper. What I suggest generally is, at the very basics, you have your contact form. If you're doing quotes or anything like that, have a separate quote form. It allows users to give you a more direct approach with their action. You don't get the messy data going through the contact form. You leave the contact form for support requests, salespeople, and allow people to submit their quote requests through a specific form. That allows you to track that, and much like Tom's presentation, it keeps your data super clean, and then you can actually even look back and check out the quality. So very simple questions. Does your website do monetary transactions? If so, you're considered e-commerce. Do you do form submissions or phone calls? If so, you're considered more of a lead gen. You can do both, not an issue. You just have to deal with them separately. But for the purpose of this webinar, we'll deal with them individually. So why you need to understand this is basically what I talked about. Is this makes all the difference when it comes to conversion tracking. What do you need to be clicking on? What do you need to be looking at? Because there is setup involved. If you are familiar with analytics, take a good look at Tag Manager. It's sort of their new software the last, say, 5 years or so. It allows anybody to tag whatever you want. It's very extensive with only one snippet of code on your site. So you don't have to go in the old days and literally tag every single piece. It's got a really a clean user interface and allows you to do multiple taggings for your conversion optimization. So I'll start with e-commerce here. So step one is set up the conversion tracking. I always say set it up early, as soon as possible. So for e-commerce, when we look at basically the ROI, a very simple metric is the revenue based on the time frame that you set out for your SEO campaign, whether it's 30 days, 60 days, 90 days, 300, a year, quarterly. Just look at the revenue. You can dive a little bit deeper, and hopefully once what you take from this webinar is this will be high level, but you'll see the opportunities that you have of drilling into certain channels and really being able to tell whether that channel is worth more money, and then that gives you the decisions, maybe I should move this money somewhere else. So revenue is a good one. I'll show you on the next slide on how to set this up. Very easy in analytics if you're running an e-commerce site. So just going into admin, see the admin there on the bottom left-hand side, you'll go into e-commerce settings. You'll see that little button up there. It says enable e-commerce. Just turn that on and save. It'll recognize all Shopify, Magento, WooCommerce. It'll recognize all those CRMs based on, the CMSs based on the checkout pages, cart pages. So it'll understand that. So that's all you really need to do. You don't have to add any other snippets of code. It'll give you a new section under conversions for e-commerce, and it'll start tracking all of your revenue. So lead gen, I want to spend a little bit more time on lead gen because that's primarily, majority of the sites are going to be lead gen, like providing services. You set up conversion goals like form submissions and assigning a dollar value to them. Again, it can be whatever you want. You just have to define it and then use a tag manager and analytics as your friend to put a hard number to them so you can go back and look at your data as you go. So once you've sort of defined that, how do you set up a new goal? Very simple. Again, in that admin button down on the bottom left there, you'll see goals. And then you'll see the big red button there that says new goal. That sets up the new goal. So you can do landing page visits. It's endless of what you can do. A couple problems that I have seen is people go into their analytics and there won't be a button there. Two reasons you have to check. First, you're only given 20 goals. So if you have 20 goals in your analytics, you just can't make any more, so they remove the button. But what you can do is just go and change any one that's inactive and just turn it back on. So they're not hard. You can change them as you go. They're not sort of done in stone. If you have 20 goals running all at once, you might want to drill down into the important ones. But you can just easily change what's there on one that's not working. Another reason is you just don't have admin privileges. So before stressing out over it, check your admin privileges or check with the admin. Just make sure you have the proper admin privileges, and that'll allow you to set goals. So this is just an example of setting a goal as a thank you page. So this is one of my favorite. It gives you some of the better results. So what this is you track a thank you page from a form submission as opposed to a a success message. So what this does a couple things. This allows you to track this page. If this page is only accessible from that form, you know it was a successful form submission. This also allows you to mark it again. It puts another screen in front of the user's face, and you can market them. You could start your funnel, upsell. There's a lot of opportunities there. So I love the thank you page. Very easy as well to track, and super important, and it gives you all those opportunities there. You also see your goal value goes here. I'll touch on this in the next slide or two. You can use this, not the end of the world if you don't. So what this is once you've defined what your leads are worth, you just put that value in here, and that value will get populated into analytics. So it's a little bit easier for you to find. Not the end of the world if you don't use it. There is a small little equation that you can just piece together as you go what your total values would be. So for e-commerce, so value. So what are we looking for ROI? So for e-commerce, like I said, the value, total revenue over the defined time frame. Very simple. That's a good one to start with. Like I said, as you get more comfortable with it, you can start drilling down a little bit further. For lead gen, a couple steps you got to take. Determine how many of the leads converted into sales, determine the average value of each sale, and then from that you can determine the value of each lead. And I'll talk about this more on the next slide. So going back to that previous slide, these are just an example to help you understand the numbers and give you an approach, and you can apply it to some of your campaigns. So how many leads convert into sales? So let's say you had 100 leads per month and 25 of them became clients. So you had a 25% conversion rate. What's the average value of each sale? So let's say each client spends $200. So your average client value is $200. This isn't lifetime value. This is just the initial conversion. So what is the value of each lead? You basically divide the total of conversions by the number of leads. So if you have 25 customers by $200, you got $5,000. So now you divide that $5,000 by 100 leads and you get $50. So now each lead is $50. So if we want to go back in the goal value there, you just put $50. A lot of people don't do this, which is totally fine because it's sort of, it's kind of everybody realizes this after the map. So it's just if you are prepared and you're that super keener and you get things set up everywhere you go, you would actually do this step first and then put that value into the goal. So I'll start with, so if you, as with most people in most accounts that I've seen, if you haven't assigned values, but you have your goals set up, you just need to do the math. So this is basically your goal completions. You'll just find under organic search, you can find this in the left. Under acquisition, all traffic and channels. Just find your organic search. That's primarily going to be your SEO efforts. But, going on to Tom's presentation, cleaner the data. I mean, it's huge. So with that, you'll see that I have it set under all goals. If you don't have goals that are monetized, I would flip through these and just take the monetized goals. A lot of brands will do time on page for specific pages. Not necessarily sure that's going to be monetized or part of the ROI. But if you have sort of goals that are more monetized, just add those up. So in this instance, this would be 132 leads. We would still need to take into consideration the customers that came out of that and what they spent before we started making the decision on what our lead value is. So this is if you have gone and assigned the values to your goals. Very simple. Analytics will do the work for you. You view the conversions report. You just go under conversions, multi-channel funnels, and under assisted conversions, and then just select conversions at the top of the report, and it'll give you all the conversions, which is the same as the goals, and it'll populate all the values based on the conversion goals. So it does it all for you. Right, so this is my favorite part. From a numbers guy, I love the ROI formula. I love figuring it out. I love seeing, even if it's not doing well, I love just seeing the fact that it's doing well because it allows me to make the decisions on what I need to do in order to increase that. So very simple. gain from investment minus cost of investment divided by cost of investment. So here's just an example of it. Like, say you made 600K in a quarter as revenue as part of your SEO efforts. The cost of your SEO is about 125K. You just do the simple math: 600,000 minus 125,000 divided by 125,000. You get 475,000 divided by 125,000. You get 3.8. Times that by 100 to make the percentage, and you have a 380% ROI. So for lead gen, a little different. Like I said, e-commerce sort of gives you that hard number to work with. A little bit more math when it comes into lead gen. Just another example here, help you walk through it. Feel free to apply this to some of your data. I'll have my email at the end of the webinar. Feel free to shoot me any questions you have or a couple numbers you have. I'll help you figure it out, at least get the ball rolling. So say you get 534 leads, and you've already determined that your lead value is $150 based on the customer spend and your conversion rate. So your total lead value is $80,100. Let's say it costs you $30,000 to get there. So you just do the math. 80,100 minus 30,000 divided by 30,000. You get 50,100 divided by 30,000. You get a 1.6. Multiply that by 100 to give you the percentage. You get 167% in the ROI formula. So it's very easy. This SEO and ROI, from what I've come across, does sort of scare people, but it's very simple. You just have to think of just put it into context. You know, what did I get out of it? What did I spend? And how do I figure that out? So with a couple little formulas, you can easily figure that out. If you want to go further, drilling this down a little bit further, you can really get into, if you do paid directories. I know if there's personal injury lawyers, some paid directories are very expensive. So you want to know, what are those leads coming through? Are they any good? Are they converting? And what is it costing me? So you can really drill down per channel as well once you get a full understanding. So just to give a recap here. So sort of the steps, these are very loose steps. Like I said, you can go sort of any way that you want to go. It sort of all has to come into one. So first one is, I always say, set up your conversions or e-commerce tracking. Even if you don't plan on using it, if you have no plan of doing anything, set it up as soon as possible, because the more data you have, the better decisions you can make. And when you go to calculate it, define a time frame that's consistent, whether you're looking at 30, 60, 90, 365 days. You know, if you do a 3-month SEO run, although we recommend 6 months, you know, just keep in mind that your consistencies, because that could really throw off your numbers. If you're looking at a 90-day spend and only 60 days of work, it's going to throw some of the numbers off. And then you just define how much revenue was received through organic traffic. Use the revenue from e-commerce, or just calculate the lead to goal value for lead gen. And very simple again, how much did it cost you to get there? So again, keeping that time frame in mind, keeping all the numbers consistent, using that ROI formula should very easily give you the ROI for that specific SEO campaign. You can use it for paid ads, but paid ads is a little bit easier because the numbers are harder. SEO, you know, takes a little bit. Some people are afraid of it because it is intangible. But the numbers are there if you need it. So I appreciate you spending the time. I hope that was informative. You know, I'm welcome for any questions after this.
Well, that's great, Mike. Thank you. Well, that concludes our webinar for today. Thanks again to both Mike and Tom. If you'd like to learn more on this topic, you can certainly reach Tom at datacollective.ca. And or Mike at mike.giles@graphicallyspeaking.ca. In the near future, we'll post a blog and a video recording of today's session on our website at graphicallyspeaking.ca. I'm Dale Slattery. Thank you for joining us.